Hey everyone, welcome to Unlocking Harmonic Language, Week 1, the 4 triads. I hope you were able to watch the intro video to get an overview of things, but here's a quick little recap. This is my curriculum for 2025. I'm Phil. I'm a piano teacher. I also teach guitar and bass. And I'd say that my strengths are in music theory and in communicating music theory in an approachable manner. So if that's something you're interested in, you may consider subscribing to the channel. Maybe you're saying, well, what does this guy know? How's he gonna help me out? I'm an experienced musician. Let's try it out. And if it's not your thing, that's fine. Money back guarantee, right? I'm putting these out for free. If it's something that helps you, then that would make me very happy. And then you can let me know what you think about it. Maybe share it with your friends that are musicians as well and see if you're into it, okay? Let's kick right in. In music theory, in traditional harmony, there's something called tertian harmony, which is basically harmony in thirds. This is an interval. It's called an octave. Here's a seventh. Here's a sixth, here's a fifth, here's a fourth, here's a third, the one we're going to talk about, and here's a second, right? So it's just numbers that we add to values in music. The piano is a little confusing. You have white keys and black keys. So what's the note that comes after A? B, right? Nope, it's actually B flat. But you're like, A and B are right next to each other, right? But that's an illusion, right? See, look back here. So when we go from one note to the very next note, up or down, it's called a half step. Okay, that's A to A, back down. And when I'm demonstrating this for my students, I always use magnet tiles to kind of demonstrate how this works. It's kind of mathematical. A single magnet tile is what we'd consider to be a half step. A half step is also called a minor second. Yes, I'm going to start with very simple stuff. You can fast forward to the more advanced stuff later on. Now, if I take two half steps, obviously I have what's called a whole step, and that will get you scales. Whole steps are also called major seconds. And it's not always obvious where the major seconds and whole steps lie, because you have this, that's a whole step, and this, that's not a whole step, that's a half step. So this is a whole step. So here's our whole steps. Right? And so I always say that in half steps, you're dealing with circus music. And in whole steps, you're dealing with flashbacks. Like I remember 1996. So what we do is combinations of whole steps and half steps, which reveal tetrachords. And that's actually a subject I'm going to put aside for now, because that will get us the major scale. And I'm assuming you know a couple of major scales at least, hopefully all 12. If not, that's okay, we'll build it up. I actually want to combine the half step and the whole step to get us the minor third. So this is where we want to emphasize things. So a minor third is 3 half steps in length. So for example, A to C, B flat to D flat, B to D, C to E flat, C sharp to E, D to F, E flat to G flat, E to G, F to A flat, F sharp to A, G to B flat, G sharp to B. Let's play them harmonically. So that's one thing. You want to have that under your fingers and be able to identify them on your piano. Oh, by the way, this is going to be, I'm going to be demonstrating these things on the guitar and the bass. But if you play saxophone or trombone, you can still practice these exercises. Any instrument that can play notes, right? Now, what happens with 4 half steps? Well, we get the major third. And the major third is a brighter sound. If we play A to C sharp, that's a major third. So A, 1, 2, 3, 4. B flat to D, B to D sharp, C to E, D flat to F, D to F sharp, E flat to G, E to G sharp, F to A, F sharp to A sharp, G to B, A flat to C. So I'm naming these with one letter name in between. Let me give you an example. So if I said F to G sharp, that's probably not the right way to say it, because even though those are the names of these notes, in this context, it's not a third. It's called an augmented second because F and G are next to each other in the alphabet. We want to say F to A flat, right? That's the right idea. Now, if I say A flat to C for the major third here, A flat to C, and you want to call it a G sharp to B sharp, that's great, but just don't call it a G sharp to C, because that would be a fourth, right? G, A, B, C, fourth. This is one of the things about music theory that can be a little bit daunting. Minor thirds and major thirds. We can create the vast majority of chords that we use in music using just these two intervals. C, E, G. Let's see what we get here. If we get C to E, that's a major third. E to G, that's a minor third. So C, E, G. That checks out. And so we can deduce that a major triad is a major third. I'll just put capital M3 for the major third, plus a minor third. And that will always get us a major triad. I always like to quiz my students, so try A flat, right? Okay, most of my younger students have never played an A flat major chord in their life. So here's A flat, count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's C. Count 3 more. 1, 2, 3. That sounds nice. That's an A flat major chord. It's A flat, C, and E flat. Let's take these intervals and play a C minor chord. So if I play C, E flat, and G, what we got here. So C to E flat is a minor third, and E flat to G is a major third. So we can deduce that all minor chords are a minor third plus a major third. So minor third, major third. Let's try D minor. D to F, that's a minor third. F to A is a major third. Okay, so you probably know that you can just move the middle note around to go from major to minor, and that's fine. So we can now try a different interval. Let's try this. What if we go minor third plus minor third? We would have C, E flat, and G flat. You know what that's called? It's called a diminished triad. C, E flat, G flat. Now diminished chords sound very dark and mysterious. They're a bit tense. Let's, of course, go over what happens when we do a major third plus a major third. So that would be a major third, right? These are 4. And let's go E to G sharp. I don't even think these tiles will fit. Okay, so that's major third plus major third. Try it out on your piano. Tell me if you like the sound. C, E, and G sharp. Go for it. All right, here's how it sounds if you haven't tried it. It's very harsh. It's called an augmented chord. And there you have it. We have 4 triads: major, minor, diminished, and augmented. Major triads are major third plus minor third. Minor triads are minor third plus major third. Diminished triads are minor third plus minor third. Augmented triads are major third plus major third. I know what a lot of you are thinking. Wait, aren't you just saying R3/5 like the scale? Root third fifth? Yes, that's the way I learned it. That's probably the way a lot of people learned it. But try this out, especially if you're a teacher, because it's very simple and students are easily able to understand. If I just stack these sounds, right, first identify them, stack a minor third plus a major third. Okay, there's a C minor, okay. A minor, A, stack a minor third, stack a major third. No, it's an A minor. And it's not scale reliant. That's the thing. We're trying to get away from scales as a basis of understanding all these things and go directly to the chords, go directly to the source. All right, so now I'm gonna pull up the triad table. This is the essential part of these lessons. So version 2 for 2025, yay. Uppercase M equates to major third, 4 half steps. Lowercase m equates to a minor third, 3 half steps. Fill out the table with the correct spelling of each triad to perform the weekly assignments. Yes, you're going to get assignments here. Okay, so here's a little edit with the screen share of the triad table. All right, here we go. C major is C, E, and G. And we have C, E flat, and G. C, E flat, and G flat. And of course C, E, and G sharp. We go to F, F, A, and C, right? And we call this F, A flat, and C. Go F, A flat, and C flat, right? Not B, but C flat. And then F, A, and C sharp. And those are the first two for this week's assignment. What we do next is we apply it to an exercise that I have called the extended position piano chords. So let's follow the overhead camera now. The next thing we need to do is play these chords in extended position. Extended position on the piano means involving an octave. So we're going to play a C chord in an octave. Here is C, E, and G. Start with that, right? Now, when you play a C octave, you're going to have two chord tones, the E and the G in between. We're talking about a C chord here, E and G. That's a root position C major chord. Now we're going to go to E, grab the octave, and here I see a G and a C. This is called a first inversion C chord in extended position. That's all the fancy speak. You can say it's a first inversion triad, even though there's 4 notes you're playing, but you're always doubling the lowest note. Okay? Then we're going to go to the G octave, and then we have a C and an E in between. This is called a second inversion C major chord. All right, and just to make it sound real nice, we're going to go back to the C octave and do the E and G in between. So we're back in root position. To review, root position, first inversion, second inversion, root position again. And of course we go backwards. Now the key here is to use the correct fingerings. If you're making up the fingerings, you're finding that you don't have enough space, it's probably because you're not doing one of these things. Always use the thumb and the pinky, right? It's an octave every time. Always use the second finger. Use the third finger in the root position shape. In the first inversion shape, use the ring finger. That gets you closer to the pinky, right? And then in the second inversion, use the ring finger again. And when you get back to the root position, an octave higher, use the third again. And remember those on the way down. Fourth finger on this one. So the question is, one of my students pointed this out recently, whether you use the third or the fourth finger. And the answer is usually the fourth finger, but sometimes the third. Now we add the left hand playing this block triad, and here's how the exercise sounds. And that's just a little thing I like to do, is tie the top note over. It's completely optional. So I wrote that in the exercise, just kind of like hold that chord tone out and then. Okay? So for many of you, this may be a very simple concept. For others, you may struggle with the shapes. Take your time. Don't put a metronome on it just yet. Make sure you get it right. Let's say that a good goal for this week is to play the 4 triads in C and F. So that's C major, C minor, C diminished, and C augmented. Then F major, F minor, F diminished, and F augmented. I will demonstrate these now. So you just heard C major. Let me give you C minor. So here you have to be careful because there's an E flat, right? Okay, now I'm going to do C diminished. That means I'm going to have a C, an E flat, and a G flat. There's a significant stretch between the flat 5 and the root. Oops, I used the flat 5 turn. That's okay. So the G flat to the C is kind of a big stretch. And finally augmented. Now the trick for augmented chords, since they're spread out a bit more, is to always use the 4th finger for each of the shapes. Got that? And now, of course, we're going to go to F. So I prefer to go down to the lower F, do an F major. F minor. Clunker there? That's okay. Now the worst chord on the piano is the F diminished because all the notes are squished up. It may be a bit uncomfortable going between the B and the F. And then finally F augmented. I do not recommend using a metronome at this point. Just take your time to get the shapes under your fingers. And another thing is, if you make a mistake, you gotta do the following. Forgive yourself immediately, understand that you're a human being, and then try to learn from the mistake. So my company is called Meno Moso Music because Meno Moso means go a little slower. That's all it means. And because my job as a teacher, most of the time, is telling very talented people, hey, could you try that again a little slower? And that's typically because our ambition is a little bit higher than our ability. And what we need to do is maybe lower the ambition a little bit and let the ability increase at the same time you do that. So you get this kind of equilibrium, let's say. There's the homework. Assignment number 1 is the 4 triads in C and the 4 triads in F. If you want to do more, go ahead. You're probably doing what I call hard mode on your video game. This is going to be the medium mode. If you need an easy mode, just do C major and F major. Maybe C minor and F minor as well. All right. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy the exercises, and I'll see you next time. Take care.